I want to start with my hair. Not because it's the most important part of this story, but because it's where the story starts. And honestly, because I spent 4 years growing it, and I think it deserves a proper introduction. It was chestnut brown, the kind of brown that catches light and looks almost copper in the afternoon sun. It reached my waist. When I walked, it moved with me like it had its own personality, its own rhythm. I never really thought about it much until the day someone else did. My name is Zoe Carter. I'm 19. I live in a quiet suburb of Columbus, Ohio, where the houses all look slightly too similar and everyone knows slightly too much about everyone else's business. I'm not great at math. I'm not great at sitting still. I'm not great at being what people expect me to be, which in this neighborhood is a very specific and very exhausting thing. What I am great at is drawing. I have 7 sketchbooks under my bed. I draw people mostly, faces, expressions, the way someone's shoulders look when they're pretending to be okay. My art teacher, Mrs. Calloway, once told me I had a rare eye for human emotion. I wrote that down and kept it. On the days I felt completely useless, I'd take it out and read it. Those days happen more than I'd like to admit. My mom is Carol Carter. She's warm and well-meaning and deeply influenced by what the neighborhood thinks. She's not a bad person. She just cares very much about appearances, hers, mine, ours as a family. My dad travels for work most of the year, so it's mostly just me and Mom and the quiet hum of a house that always feels like it's waiting for something. Last semester, I failed 2 subjects, calculus and chemistry. I want to be honest about that because this story only makes sense if you understand. I wasn't trying to fail. I just couldn't make myself care. I'd sit in those classes and my brain would just drift. Out the window, into a face I wanted to sketch, into some conversation I was replaying in my head. Caring felt like a muscle I didn't know how to use yet. The neighborhood noticed before my mom even said anything to me. That's how it works here. Information travels faster than wind. Now I need to tell you about 4 women, because without them, there's no story. Linda Hargrove lives 3 houses down. She's 42, blonde, always perfectly put together like she woke up an hour before everyone else just to make the rest of us feel underdressed. She drives a white Range Rover. She organizes the neighborhood watch, the book club, the holiday decorating committee. She is, in the most specific sense of the word, a woman who is in charge of everything, especially things that have nothing to do with her. I had a theory about Linda. I thought she was someone who had given up something big once, a dream, a career, a version of herself she'd wanted to be, and now she managed the lives around her to fill that space. I never said this out loud, but I thought it every time I saw her. Priya Nair lives across the street. 38, always in a neat salwar or a pressed blazer, always talking about her daughter Mira's grades like it's a weather report she has to deliver daily. She's the kind of person who agrees with whoever spoke last and apologizes for existing in rooms where she wasn't asked to apologize. She's not mean. She's just absent from herself somehow, like she learned early that taking up space was dangerous and never unlearned it. Deborah Walsh is loud in the best and most exhausting way. 45, curly auburn hair that matches her personality, big, unpredictable, always moving. She films everything on her phone, everything. She once filmed herself reacting to a particularly good sandwich. She doesn't mean harm. She just experiences life at a volume that most people find overwhelming. I actually kind of liked Deborah in the way you like a thunderstorm, impressive from a distance. And then there's Sandra Kim, 40, former corporate lawyer. Razor-sharp bob, razor-sharp mind, razor-sharp everything. She doesn't talk much in groups. She doesn't need to. When Sandra speaks, the room adjusts. She's the kind of person who phrases opinion as fact so smoothly that you're halfway home before you realize you just agreed to something you didn't actually agree with. She was the most dangerous one, not because she was cruel, but because she was always the smartest person in the room, and she knew it. These 4 women had a monthly kitty party. Rotating houses, wine, food, gossip dressed up as concern. I'd seen them through our living room window my whole life, laughing too loud, leaning in too close, solving everyone's problems except their own. I never imagined I'd become one of their topics. It was a Tuesday morning when my mom came into my room with a smile. You know the one. The smile that appears on someone's face when a decision has already been made and they're just delivering the news with pleasant packaging. She stood at my doorway while I was sketching and said, "Linda and the girls want to take you out this Saturday. Spa day. Isn't that sweet?" I looked up from my sketchbook. I said, "Why?" She said, "Because they care about you." I said, "Linda Hargrove has never cared about anyone without an agenda. What's actually happening?" My mom's smile got a little tighter around the edges. She said, "Zoe, please, just go, be social for once. They want to do something nice." I looked at her face for a long time. She looked tired. She looked like someone who'd been fielding questions about her daughter from the neighborhood for weeks and just wanted one morning of peace. And I, for reasons I still slightly regret, decided not to push it. "Fine," I said, "1 hour." She hugged me, and I went back to my sketchbook and tried to ignore the feeling sitting in my stomach that said, "This is not a spa day." Saturday came. I wore my gray hoodie and jeans. Linda's Range Rover was outside at 10 sharp. Deborah was already in the backseat talking. Priya was in the front looking at her phone. Sandra was beside Deborah, looking out the window. I got in. Linda said, "Zoe, you look so pretty with that hair. Has it always been that long?" I said 4 years. She said, "Wow, that's dedication." Something in her voice, when she said dedication, made the feeling in my stomach sharpen. But I put my headphones in for the ride and told myself I was overthinking it. I was not overthinking it. The salon was called Nouveau, all marble and soft jazz and the kind of lighting that makes everyone look expensive. I walked in and immediately felt the wrongness of it. This was not a spa. There were no massage tables, no cucumbers, no robes. There were mirrors and scissors and the sharp, clean smell of product. And then Linda's hand was on my shoulder, guiding me toward the main styling chair like she'd scouted the location in advance. Because she had. Of course she had. I sat down. I looked in the mirror, and I watched the 4 of them arrange themselves behind me, and I thought, oh, this was planned. Linda pulled out her phone. She showed the stylist a picture and said, "We'd like this, please." The stylist turned the screen toward me so I could see. A side-shaved bob, clean undercut, sharp lines, bold, drastic. The kind of haircut that requires a very specific kind of confidence to pull off. The kind of confidence that comes from choosing it yourself. I looked at the photo, then I looked at Linda in the mirror, and I said, "That's not what I came here for." And Linda, so calmly, so warmly, like she was doing me the greatest favor of my life, said, "Zoe, honey, we had a long talk. Your grades slipped. You spend all your time in that room. We just think a fresh start might help you refocus." Deborah said, "New hair, new you." Priya said, "It'll grow back, sweetheart." Sandra said nothing. She just watched my face in the mirror. I sat very still. I looked at my hair, all of it, 4 years of it, chestnut and copper in the salon light. I thought about every argument I could make, every way I could walk out. I thought about my mom's tired face on Tuesday morning. And then something shifted in me, something quiet and certain, like a door closing gently but completely. I said, "Fine." The room relaxed. Deborah made a small, excited sound. Linda smiled. And then I said, "But I have a condition." I told them clearly and calmly. If I top the semester exams, not pass, top them, each one of them does one thing I choose. No questions, no negotiation. My call, my timing. Deborah laughed out loud. Linda looked amused the way adults look amused when a child says something unexpectedly bold. Priya bit her lip. Sandra tilted her head slightly and looked at me with something I couldn't quite read. Then Sandra extended her hand and said, "Deal." And one by one they shook it. Linda with amusement, Priya with nervousness. Deborah with excitement like this was content for her channel. Not one of them asked what I had in mind. 4 intelligent women. Not a single one of them asked. I filed that away. The cape went around my neck, white against my hoodie. I looked at myself in that mirror and I made myself stay present. Don't look away, Zoe. Remember this. Every detail. The stylist worked quietly and professionally. She combed through my hair with a gentleness the situation didn't quite deserve. I kept my eyes open. Deborah had her phone up. I could see it in the mirror. I didn't give her anything. The first cut landed differently than I expected. I'd imagined I would feel it emotionally first, but it was physical. A sudden lightness on the right side. A sound that was clean and irreversible. And then hair on the floor, my hair, just there, on the white tile. I breathed through it. Then the clippers, that sound, that low, even buzz along the side of my head. I felt it vibrate through my jaw, my teeth. The sides disappearing. The undercut taking shape. Priya looked away. Linda leaned forward slightly. Sandra kept watching my eyes. When the chair turned, I heard the room go quiet. Even Deborah lowered her phone for a second. The bob sat sharp at my jaw. The sides were clean and close. The undercut was exact. And I looked at this person in the mirror, same hazel eyes, same face, and thought, she looks like someone you shouldn't have underestimated. I raised my hand slowly and ran my fingers along the shaved side. Just once, feeling every millimeter of what they'd taken. And I smiled, not for them, for me, for what I'd already decided to do. I walked out of Nouveau into the afternoon sun, and Linda said, "See, doesn't she look focused?" And I said, "Yeah, I really am." I went home. I went straight to my room. I sat at my desk and opened my calculus textbook, first time in months, and I didn't close it until my mom called me for dinner. That night I looked in the mirror before bed, really looked, and I won't pretend I wasn't scared, because I was. I had made a deal with 4 women who had no reason to believe I could win, and honestly, part of me wasn't sure I could either. But then I looked at the side of my head, clean and close and chosen by someone else, and something hardened in me like cooling metal. I had 47 days until exams. I didn't waste a single one. Next time, I'll tell you about those 47 days. The exhaustion, the doubt, the one night I nearly quit, and the morning I walked into the examination hall knowing, really knowing, that something had changed in me. And I'll tell you about the look on Linda Hargrove's face when the results came out. That look alone was worth everything.